bleeding people bleed onto other people, number one. But also if you're different. Like, for example, I discovered in 2021 that I had adult ADHD, right? So if you're on the spectrum, right, and you don't show up a certain way, you become an easy target, right? And also most of the time, we live in a traumatic country.
We do.
Where we are constantly hyper-vigilant, hyper. Yeah, everyone is on edge, walking on eggshells, right? And we don't speak enough or how much that then flows into or pours into how we navigate the world and how we lead, right? Because if you're constantly walking on eggshells, right? And then how do you lead from a place where you're not safe from within?
Yeah. Hello, Alpha Female family, and welcome back to yet another episode of the Alpha Female podcast. Today, we're going to talk about such an interesting topic about building confidence from within. I'm Lungisha Jayo, your host, and today I have a special guest, Thando. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm great. It's actually finally happening.
We rescheduled this session. I don't know. I've lost count.
I think about 3 or 4 times,
yeah,
including load shedding.
Yes, the last time load shedding happened to us, but it's such an honor to have you. Thando is a change maker. She's a co-founder of Children of Success, which basically promotes financial literacy for kids in rural backgrounds, as well as promoting or rather raising awareness against or about rather teenage pregnancy. So you do amazing work. I'm sitting with someone who's mounted Kili. Yo, we're going to talk about that. And I'm sitting with someone who's really made an impact where, it's not seen and minuscule. So it's such an honor to have you. Yay.
Yeah, I'm so humble. I'm super excited for the conversation.
Yes. Well, you've done amazing things. So the rule, Lana, is that when we start with an icebreaker. So I have cards. I'll ask you a couple of questions and then you have to, try answer honestly.
Okay.
The first one is, what were the 3 biggest turning points in your life?
Kili.
Oh, yes.
That was a huge turning point. We'll touch on that later. Losing my grandmother was also a big turning point.
Yeah.
And leaving Newcastle after matric, coming to Joburg or Gauteng was also a big turning point.
To the hustle and bustle.
Yes.
Where
to the
we
city.
are, to the city of
From
gold. And we'll talk about that a bit as well. This one says, what skill you learned when you were young that you actually still use today?
Let's see. Cooking.
Oh, are you a great cook?
Yeah.
What's your favorite meal?
I think now, since I'm in Joburg, I get homesick more. So I miss ukudla kwesintu. Like I miss uphuthu or like uphuthu nekabishi. Like basically food that you used to hate as kids. Because you like
is this it?
I literally enjoy that because it's so homey, it grounds me. So anything that has to do with isintu, I really, really enjoy.
Oh, I love that. I like it dombolo.
Dombolo no mo check.
Okay. Maybe we check actually. We check more. Okay, this one says, you can decide whether you want to answer it. Describe your worst date ever. Or one of your worst.
Let's see.
Because sometimes there's a couple.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
So I think it was... So one of my worst was I went out on a date with a guy.
Okay.
Cool. Conversation is flowing. Then comes time for e-bill, right?
Oh, we've all gone through this.
So guy then now starts arguing with the waiter to tip or not.
Okay.
And I'm like, when you're feeling a secondhand embarrassment. And I'm just like, because for me, my principle is I look at how you treat service
Yes.
staff, right?
Yes.
Because if you treat them poorly, that means the day you are off honeymoon, that's a reflection of how you're gonna treat me, right?
True.
So guy starts arguing with the waiter over a 10% tip. And the bill wasn't even expensive. I think it was about 400 or 450, right? Sharp. So 10% of that, like let's say it's 500, 10% is a 50 rand, right? So now it's an argument. Yeah, 10%. Eventually the guy pays it, right? Okay, cool. We walk off, I act all fine, drive home and I block the guy.
You didn't even owe him like an explanation.
No.
Sorry, we won't work out.
No.
Just enjoy. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Oh, guys, it's rough in the dating world. No, I'm too soft for such. He just got the idea. It's okay. It must have been the bill.
But what can I say to you after you've treated someone like that? And it's one thing saying, like, I'm very sensitive when it comes to how people treat service workers, right? Because it's a power dynamic, right? And with the work that I do, because you've mentioned that Children of Success, part of the work that we do is in the sexual and reproductive health space, right? You get to realize what power imbalances look like in relationships and the consequences that it has, right? And now imagine you are sitting in a restaurant or wherever and it's a power imbalance. And you are then not even nice or kind about saying, hey, I can't afford the 10%, but this is and it's you also get the waiter. So how much must your tip be? It's why don't you just take a pen and be like, okay, I can afford 10 rand, I can afford this amount.
Or just pay this amount and that's it. No, fair. That's fair. Okay, this one says, which season fits your personality?
Spring.
Oh,
and I'm a spring baby.
Why spring?
It's new life.
Yeah.
So in African calendar, spring is Mandulo, which is where the new year is, right? Yes. And for me, it's new birth, new life, and the flowers blossoming, newness, and the rain and life. Like basically, I'm a nature person, so life. You see the flowers, you see nature, you see plants. And also you've got more fruit option.
Yeah. Oh, so true. But it also gives you hope.
Yes.
Yeah. Because it just feels like things are new. And so it inspires hope.
Yes.
Okay, this one is the last one. Drum roll. Would you rather save money or save time?
Ooh, that's a tricky one. I think time. Yeah, I think time. Because money you can always make. But time is... And as I've evolved, because as a kid, probably my go-to was probably money. But now as I've grown up, you realize, Guti, it's the little things that you cherish about life. True. It's the little things that you cherish about your upbringing. It's the little moments that you cherish about conversations with abangani, or etc. So I think time.
And it can never be like the 15th again of February in 2025.
Yes.
And this moment.
And you can never also make up for lost time.
True. Once it's gone, it's gone.
Yep.
So true. So Thando, you didn't just wake up one day and become a powerhouse. Or like wake up and be like, you know what? I'm going to be in the Mail and Guardian. Top 200. So tell us a bit about yourself. You've spoken a bit about your upbringing. So Newcastle, where you from? How did everything start?
I always say I'm a finance profession, not by studies, and a social activist by calling, right? So born and bred in the dusty streets of Ematadeni, right? Then yes, Section 5. From a very blended family. Came to Gauteng for studies,
Mhm.
studied at Takis. And the whole reason how I ended up at Takis is my mom wouldn't let me go to UCT, and I was running away from my parents at Egwin. So I was just like, and we were banned from Joburg because my one cousin, came to Joburg, achieved everything, but except the degree. So we're all banned from Joburg, right? So the compromise was at least Pretoria's close enough,
She
right?
didn't leave you with a lot of options.
It has in because Cape Town was, you guys are too far. Durban is families around the corner so they can just rock up at rest. Joburg was a no-go zone. No one is applying there. So yeah. And I enjoy mountains, nature. That's my love for, I love nature. I'm a Zulu person, Ntombi Zulu.
Yeah. I literally call her Maskandi Bay.
Yes, like yeah. And I love Maskandi, guys, because Maskandi, there's a song for every single thing.
Every situation.
Whether it be love, whether it be breakup, whether it be communicating a message. Yeah. So yeah, that's about it.
Yeah. And did you always like grow up confident, would you say?
I will say yes and a no, and I will explain it. So I grew up from a very affirming family, right? Like, so for example, Mkhulu Duduza, who's my grandmother's brother, right, would always say when we're playing and he's coming to visit us, he would always say to us, okay, Sawana Mkhulu, and make you recite your clan names. Like, okay,
nice.
no, you don't just say Sawubona and go run and go play, right? So it would be Sawubona, and you then say Ngumuntu ngumbula sumzilikazi kaMashobane.
Musho.
Yes, right. So for me, that really affirmed me, right? But also, my grandmother made the house very homely, right? It was very loving, warm meals. Like it was just home. Like it was very loving. It was a very loving space. But you then grow up in a very loving space, in a very protective home environment, and you go off to the world.
Yeah, true.
And kids can be mean.
Yes.
Kids can be really, really mean. So then you go through a season where I was bullied in primary and the first year and a half of high school, right? And you are then sent off to an environment that teases you or bullies you simply because it's different, right? And kids can be horrible. And that tends to affect your confidence, right? But I think what really helped in my case was the fact that because I came from a very affirming home, right? And even though I was bullied, I sometimes found refuge either in a teacher or in another student or whatever who sort
was
of
not part of that group
of the bullying, right? So that really helped. So yeah,
that's tough though. I mean, we see kids who actually commit suicide because of bullying. Some don't even want to go back to school. So when you did communicate with that teacher or like have that friend as a solace, would you say it really, really helped your mental strength? And did you ever go back home and be like, actually, this is what I'm experiencing?
So, okay, I'll answer that question in two parts, right? So it did. I'll make an example. I was in a certain grade. I will not say because then it's a really small school.
Yes.
So I was in a certain grade and this girl, so I'm new in that school. This girl invites everyone in the class to a birthday party. Everyone, all the black girls and boys except for me.
So that's painful.
And so I'm new in that school. This girl does that, right? Then the teacher finds out about it. When the teacher finds out about it, she brings me aside and she literally, that woman literally counsels me. and literally sits me down. She's like, hey, it's got nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
But it's got everything to do with this person, etc., etc. So she really helped with that, right? So I think for me, what helped was some of the schools that I was in, the teachers were what would call trauma informed in how they navigated the situation, right?
Yes.
And in terms of going back home, that was difficult because I was in boarding school in primary. So so sometimes I'm only seeing my parents midterm break, or I'm seeing my parents weekends, right? So, and also how do you communicate that you're being bullied at school to your parents? Where they can't, it's not like I'm being beaten up. It's a verbal bullying.
And they feel like you just have to be tough.
Yes.
You know? So even when they probably advise you, they just tell you, good to know, this is part of life. Toughen up.
Yes.
Go back. Be better than that girl.
Yes.
That's the approach. Okay. So you had to navigate that pretty much in isolation.
Yep.
Yeah, that must have been tough. Now, having experienced that, did you have remnants of it now going into varsity and everything is also anew again? You know, coming to Joburg, everything is kind of new.
I think how that manifested in varsity, it was hyper focus. So that trauma manifested as in life is black or white and never gray, right? So it manifested in like that. Would say, okay, I was on survival mode.
Yeah.
How I maneuvered varsity.
Yeah, I can imagine. And then now in varsity, how did you now affirm yourself? You might actually still have the same affirmations now. Do you, in the morning, say your clan names to yourself again?
No, I think in varsity, how I affirmed myself was the word of God. Like I was in my hyper Christian mode. I was in my Mzalwane mode. Like no one could convince me otherwise. So that's how I affirmed myself in varsity. It was Christianity became an escape. And so then I navigated that journey of affirmation through the Bible and the word of God and just knowing scriptures and reciting scriptures. Yep.
And now?
Now. Okay, before we get to now, fast forward, I pass varsity, not skip. I pass varsity and I get my degrees and I start working. And that wound is opened again because I go into an environment where, life happens. Especially in corporate South Africa.
And we don't talk about it enough, but corporate actually has bullies, guys. Like corporate has bullies, and some of those bullies actually break you, even if you were confident. So maybe you left varsity and you were that girl, you were golden key. You get there, you have so much potential. You meet someone who's been there and they literally break you down.
That's so true. And I always say bleeding people bleed onto other people.
So true.
Sorry. Bleeding people bleed onto other people, number one. But also if you're different. Like, for example, I discovered in 2021 that I had adult ADHD, right? So if you're on the spectrum, right, and you don't show up a certain way, you become an easy target, right? And also most of the time, we live in a traumatic country.
We do.
Where we are constantly hyper vigilant, hyper. Yeah, everyone is on edge, walking on eggshells, right? And we don't speak enough or how much that then flows into or pours into how we navigate the world and how we lead, right? Because if you're constantly walking on eggshells, right? And then how do you lead from a place where you're not safe from within?
Yeah.
And
how do you create a psychologically safe space for people to actually show up as authentically themselves?
Yes.
It's almost impossible.
And on top of that, you then have a generation gap, per se, and
Yes.
miscommunication,
Yes.
right? Where you have, let's say, Gen Z right now, everyone
Yeah.
is complaining about them because they are literally they speak the mind.
Yeah.
And from parenting to corporate bosses, they're complaining about Gen Z
Yeah.
because Gen Z speaks their mind.
And
But
we were kind of like the in between. We are if we need to, like the in between generation.
yes, and also that misunderstanding of people then creates harshness because it's not everyone that will sit down and say, okay, let me understand Thando. What are Thando's strengths? What are Thando's weaknesses? And how do you navigate that? And also, we also don't come from the same families.
True.
And it's not everyone who you encounter will speak to you politely. Some people can just be plain simple rude. And if you are...
And that may trigger you.
Yes. And if you're a very sensitive person like myself, because I'm very hypersensitive, right? That was triggers. So, yeah.
And how did you deal with that or manage that? Now it's bullying that also doesn't land like bullying because no one will beat you up at corporate. Sometimes you don't even have the evidence. You were just in a meeting and someone was rude or blatantly made sure that you don't contribute, or just making sure that whatever basically you try isn't successful. So how did you navigate that space?
I think I didn't recognize it until about 4 or 5 years into my corporate journey, right? And COVID happens. So I'm locked down here alone in my apartment, and 3 weeks after COVID happens and the lockdown happens, and I think, okay, cool, I'm literally not feeling fine, right? But I don't read much into it, right? Okay, lockdown opens, regulations start happening, right? 2021, the following year, I literally went home to go visit for a week, and I could still work because we were working from home.
Yeah.
I then decided to move home.
Yeah.
And at that point in time, I just could not understand what was happening. I moved back home and I literally stayed in Newcastle for about 18 months, 18 to 24 months. During that time, I then started to see a psychiatrist. And I think for me, that was the first time in attempting to deal with that. Fast forward, after my sessions with the psychiatrist, I was fine, but I felt like there's still some unfinished business. I then joined an amazing program for women. So they offer coaching. It's called Traversing Liminality. So they offer coaching to Pan-African women between the ages of 21 to 30. And that work started in just trying to do the inner work, trying to see what does support look like for me. So at that point in time, support looked like having a coach, having a therapist, and having a psychiatrist. And yeah, I think that's how support looked like from that environment. Because remember now, it's not only the corporate stuff that I'm dealing with. It's life is happening.
Yes, it's life as well.
Life is happening. Plus the inner childhood traumas that you're dealing with. And I think for me at that point in time, it was understanding that life happens to everyone, right?
Absolutely.
But what the difference between person A and person B is, what does community look like? And the importance of having community. I can't underestimate that.
It absolutely helps. I think also with grounding, because we were talking a bit earlier on how it's important to define what it looks like for you at different points. Because also community will remind you who you are. You'll be falling apart at work and people will be like, this is who you are. Don't ever forget that. So it helps build up that confidence again.
No, it does. Like, I'll make an example with one of my closest friends and co-founders of Children of Success, Tepiso. That woman has seen so much potential in me, even on the days that I don't see it. And she has seen so much potential even on the days that I don't see it. She's constantly saying, Thando, this is how you do it. Because I remember, so we met in varsity second
Yes.
year, right? And when we met in varsity second year, because of the type of work that we do, so I'd constantly send her stuff to write that I've written, etc. Right? And the other day she's like to me, Thando, it's amazing to see how you've evolved, right? And how you've grown in terms of how you write. So I think for me, going back to your point of saying community holds you down, it's
Absolutely.
that community will hold you down. They will remind you your potential, even when the world is telling you that you ain't nothing.
That this is not it.
Yes.
Actually, Upazama St. John says that behind every successful woman, it's just WhatsApps from her girls holding her down. Uguti, listen, girl, this is what you did. This is just a moment. It's just a moment, and you go through it and pass. So, Thando, would you say, where are you now in terms of how you're showing up in the world? Do you feel like you're showing up as your authentic, confident self?
I am. I think life has sort of forced me. I am. I'm in a very, and what do I mean by that? For me, whenever I was not showing up as my authentic, confident self, I always had this thing, this inner,
there's no peace.
Yes. And like you go out to the world, they like, dude, you've got this, you've got this, you've got this. They're looking at the material things, right?
But and you're feeling like a fraud though, in a sense.
Yes. And in the pursuit of peace. In the pursuit of internal peace. Then that sort of forced me to show up as my authentic, confident self.
I love that because most things for us, especially when we define stuff like this, it's always material. So for instance, with me, I always feel like I have to be put together. So much so that we had to discuss it one day in therapy with you. Why? Because it makes me feel more in control of my life and my day. So for you, is it, okay, for me, it's being put together. For you, is it still the word grounding you or something else?
I think so. In the pursuit of inner peace, I've learned that there's grace, right, in life.
True.
And learning that there's grace means that either some days it's the word of God, some days it's Maskandi on full blast. Some days it's the 90s R&B, early 2000s R&B. Some days it's just, my friends know when, some days I'm just like, I need a hike and I need water.
Yes. You need to be outside.
Right. Yes, some days it's that. Some days it's, I can wake up at 4 a.m. and I'm like, I'm driving home. Because I need to go and I'll be fine. Some days it's a call to a friend and venting and being like, yo, babes, ziyakhala namhlanje khala on M. And so I've learned to understand that what grounds people is
it's seasonal in a sense. It's seasonal. Yeah.
Right? Yes, the word of God served its purpose and served its purpose at that specific point, right? But now I'm open to a lot of things. I'm open to nature. Some days it's me going on TikTok and listening to a Zulu song, a gita, and in gita, and I'm just like, oh, this is so healing. So right now, I think I'm in a phase where I'm very big on energy. I'm very big on how do I feel? How do you see that inner peace of how do I pursue that energy of peace, that energy of constantly being grounded? And I don't always get it right.
Yeah, because we're human.
Yes.
And grace also comes into play, but also the different experiences. Sometimes you're on a high and something happens and it could just, you know, completely change where you were 2 days ago. And that's also okay. Would you say, if, for instance, especially now that you're working with girls, you know, and they come from different backgrounds, you spoke about a power dynamic earlier. Sometimes that comes from even low self-esteem. You know, people feel like I'm not worthy of XYZ. Here's a man promising me the world. Okay, maybe I can move in this direction. So, how has your work also helped you kind of spread this amazing energy that you have?
I think my work, the type of work that I do, has always, and we always say this, be the big sister that you never had.
Oh, I love that.
Right. So it's made me so much I've had so much empathy and compassion, right? Understanding that the difference between me and a teenage mom is simply luck and the type of family support that I have.
True.
Right. Because I've got a childhood friend who, by the time we were 18, was a mother of 3.
18?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
And upon reflecting, I'm like, okay, what were some of the difference points?
Yeah.
Right. Differentiators in the situation, right?
Yeah.
Number one is I came from a very supportive family.
Yeah.
Yes, it was blended.
Yes.
My
family loving and
my family is super blended. Guys, when I mean blended, it's really blended, right? But I had a grandmother who I knew that if I'm not home by 6 o'clock, the gate is locked. Right. Number one. Number two, I had a mom who loved education. So sent me to the best schools she could afford, right? And number three, because of the support from my family and my grandmother, and my mom loving education, that exposed me and allowed me to dream beyond my environment. It allowed me to dream beyond the dusty streets of Emadadin. Right. So, and for me, I reflect that as luck because I did not choose. It's luck to be born in the family you're born into, right? Because had I been born probably into
a different family,
in her circumstances, I probably would have been a teenage mom because she lost both her parents in the early 2000s, right? And lost her grandmother mid 2000s. And life happens and she didn't go to the best schools money could buy, right? And life would have turned out differently for me. And I think doing the work, I know doing the work that I do, I always lend so much empathy and like it's so much empathy saying, you know what, I'm not here where I am by my own doings.
Yes.
Yeah, it's not by my, as the word of God will say, it's not by might, it's not by power, but it's by his strength.
Yeah, so true. And a lot of us don't talk about how luck plays into a lot of things, actually. Even, I'm listening to a book now called The Psychology of Money, and he speaks about how luck, especially when investing and stuff like that, is literally one of the determinants of success. So it's interesting that you bring up that point, which I think is very true as well, especially when we come from different environments. So Thando, if now looking at where you are, being at peace and everything, how has it affected, like, for instance, different spaces like relationships? Because sometimes relationships as well, because that's a different level of intimacy as well. So do you think now that you've done the work, even there, Nje, show up nicely and you prioritize your peace?
Funny you mentioned that, right? A friend of mine during the work I was doing recommended All About Love by Bell Hooks, right?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
I have that book as well. Yeah.
So one of the things she basically talks about is how we prioritize and put romantic relationship on a pedestal, right?
Yes.
But basically in that book, she basically explores the different types of relationships, right? And I think for me, where I am right, is understanding that having done the inner work, right, it doesn't mean that I won't go into a relationship and a person won't trigger me.
True.
Sometimes in a romantic setting, someone will trigger you and you're like, okay, cool.
You can step back.
Let me step
Yeah.
back. Clearly, this person came into my life to teach me certain unhealed wounds. So how I view relationships, be it friendships, be it romantic relationship, be it community, because sometimes friendship breakup are painful.
They are harder.
Yes.
Yeah, they're much harder.
It's always saying, what unhealed wound is this person exposing in me? Right? And that's how I navigate it. Because if someone is constantly taking away from my peace and triggering me, then what is it in me that attracted that?
Oh, that's so deep.
And that's why doing the inner work, doing the confidence work, doing the inner healing, because for me, I believe confidence comes from the inner healing, right?
Yeah.
It's not about always how loud you show up.
True.
It's not about always getting things right,
True.
right? But it's about, how do I constantly show up as my authentic self? How do I show up as me? How do I not apologize for being Thando?
And not also seeking, and I was asking about romantic relationships, because sometimes that's where we seek validation and acceptance, because rejection is so much harder. And so you find people almost, I don't know if you do you watch Love is Blind? God bless you. But basically what happened is, there was, in this latest season, there was a lady, when they met with the guy, she was so demure. So, thank you. And then her real voice came out in the end. And I feel like, had you presented that before, maybe she knew that she wasn't going to get engaged. So you become performative to be accepted by others and not showing up as yourself.
It's funny how you mentioned that. And it's a discussion I once had with my friend last year. And she said, so we're talking about marriage, right? And I always say, I thank God I wasn't married in my 20s, right? Because I would have shown the person flames, right? No, because I had not found myself. Let's be honest.
I get you.
And she says to me, that friend was like to me, Thando, confidence, challenging a man is a muscle. And confidence, challenging a man is a muscle that constantly needs to be exercised. So that confidence of finding your voice in relationship is a muscle, number one. But secondly, it's how society views. Because society has a huge impact in terms of how
we show up,
right?
Absolutely.
Because you can be successful, you can drive all the cars you want, you can buy all the houses you want, you can be that girl that is a role model. For as long as you are not married, it feels like there's something missing within you.
In fact, every gathering you go to, people will be like, so what's going on? Should we hook you up? Are you crazy?
Exactly.
What's wrong? Yeah.
So also it's also lending empathy to women, right? Saying society puts so much expectation on us girls. From the time you are young, you are sort of being groomed to kuba umfazi kabani. For example, if you've got an ADHD kid who's very messy, right? The first things when your parents shout at you is,
who will marry you?
Yes. But failing to realize, Uguti, it's you are on the spectrum. You are differently abled, right? And it's how society is harsh to girls. Society is very, very harsh to girls. And the moment you go left instead of right, you're constantly being reminded. And that's why going back, that community is so important, because that community will always be your safe space.
True. And having a safe space is literally life-changing, because it grounds you. We're talking about grounding you, but how did you end up climbing Kili?
They say when the mountain is ready for you, it calls you. Kili's story is actually funny. So those of you that know Newcastle, we are surrounded by the southern part of the Drakensberg, right? So in grade 11, the school I was in was taking a couple of students up Kili, right? And I remember because I did engineering graphic design and one girl in the class was like, Thando, let's go. And in my mind, I'm like, dude, I'm black. Mountains are not for me, right? Fast forward 2018. One of the girls I was in varsity with climbs Kili.
Okay.
And I'm like, at that point in time, Vela had been toying around with
the idea
of hiking,
yes,
but not necessarily hiking as in Kili.
yeah.
So I was just gravitating towards mountains, right? And I'm like, she did it and she did it for girls. And it's something I'm passionate about. And I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, Nami, I'm definitely doing it and I'm doing it for girls. I meet her, I then I reach out to her. I'm like, hey, person X, I see that you've just submitted Kili. Congratulations. How did you do it? And she's like, I did it with this company. And doing it with this company, it means I did it with this company and doing it with this company. Here's the person's contact details. Set an appointment. Bear in mind,
Are you fit?
I am, okay, so I've always been an active
Yeah.
person, right? But fitness wasn't even
Like a question. It's just like, I can do
it,
this.
right? But I was in articles at that time and ordered articles, so you don't get paid much. Right? So I go. In my mind, I'm thinking, climbing Kili is like cheap. Like cheap, right? I go, off I go. I then I set up a meeting with the person, the company, the specific company. He tells me the price. I almost fainted. I almost fainted because I'm just like, with this day pent.
How?
Yes. You know, the beauty of that story is faith and just dreaming, there will be provision. Because after that, what then happens is I moved back home. And when I moved...
So it was that period.
Yeah.
Yes.
When I moved back home, so that was 2019 when I discovered how much how expensive climbing Kili is. I then moved back home 2021. After moving back home 2021, I then gravitate towards mountains. I would literally drive from Newcastle to either a Big Vili to either a Winterton to any single to trails. Just literally once a month, it became my ritual of driving out. Right? And drove out multiple times. Fast forward one random day in August 2022, I get a LinkedIn DM from a guy who says, hey, I like your LinkedIn profile. Do you mind doing work with my company? Fortunately, he's based in London, but fortunately he was coming to South Africa, right? So we meet up. We then, at that point in time, he was looking for me to go do accounting services for him, right? And didn't want something full time. I'm like, okay, my contract has a restraint of trade, so I can't. He's like, but I like you. What else can we do? And I'm like, please pay for my Kili trip.
Just like that.
Just like that. And yeah. And he's like, why? And I justified it. I'm like, I'm climbing. I want to raise awareness around teenage pregnancy, but more than raise awareness around teenage pregnancy, some of the funds go towards period poverty. So, and then he was convinced. I had to sort of draft a business case for it. And yeah, he was convinced. And yeah, and then that's where the journey started. And through faith, putting it out in the universe, and also just being prepared.
Yeah. Because you were already like climbing all of these mountains once a month. And how was the actual experience? Did you want to give up at any point?
Yeah, guys. Yeah. Kili taught me a lot about myself. taught me a lot about life, taught me a lot about community. Yeah, man, like, let's start. Where do I start? Day one,
Yeah.
ne, when you start off hiking, it's still nice. No, it's still nice.
And we keep calling it guys, it's Kilimanjaro.
Yes. No, it's still nice. When you start off hiking, it was still nice. You still have butterflies.
Yeah.
It's so
You still have the excitement.
And you also going through, so you walk through the first half of the first day and a half, it's like a rainforest. So scenery.
It's just,
it's giving. It's giving content. So day one was quite that. But then, yeah, after day one, after day two, after lunch, I started getting sick. And I remember I had had a conversation with the girl that had summited in 2018. I'm like, dude, what advice can you give me? And she mentioned, she's like, the earlier you speak up when you start getting sick, that can be a difference between you summiting or not.
Okay.
So I then go to the team doctor and I'm like, hey, I don't know what's happening to me. Number one, I feel weak. Number two, I feel nauseous. Number three, I've got diarrhea. Right? And he's like, okay, cool, let's carry your bag. And in carrying my bag, that for me was community.
Yeah,
saying,
absolutely.
it's important to ask for help,
Yeah,
guys.
yeah.
We can't do life on our
Alone.
own. We can't do, no matter how strong you are, no matter how prepared you are, you can't do life alone, right? So for me, that was quite important. Then we hike up. We get to base camp where we're sleeping. I mean, we get to camp where we're sleeping for day two. We sleep. I'm sort of fine. I wake up, but I'm still not feeling fine.
Yeah.
But I then make a commitment to myself that for as long as my heartbeat is fine, my lungs are fine,
You're going to summit.
I'm going to summit. I think for me, that was also an important conversation. What do you say to yourself? Because sometimes we don't say the most kindest things to ourselves.
True.
What do we say to ourselves?
And that tears us down even more because
Exactly.
you're not even in the world. So when life happens, it's like people validating what you've already told yourself.
Yes. And we start walking that day. So as you're walking on the mountain, what happens is you've got different groups on the mountain. So some groups are faster than you guys.
Yeah.
They would just be... Some groups, we are all in the same WhatsApp group, polaring, right? And so some of the groups that were faster than us on day 3, we get to camp that day. Reality hits in that now you're on the mountain. It's between you and your God. Right? Because people are sick now.
Yeah. And you're going higher and higher as well.
People are sick as a result of going higher and higher. People are getting altitude sickness and people are sick. Right? The fastest person is not necessarily the person that will summit. And it's similar to life.
Yeah, I
in
like
terms
that.
Of sometimes life will happen. The fastest people in life does not necessarily mean that they will get to whatever your guys' end goal is. And it's important to focus on your trail and your journey. Right? Because we got there. Day 3, they call an ambulance from the mountain. People are turning back.
My word.
And it's the reality that you're on the mountain, right? And
how does it feel like for you now? Because it feels like very crossroady, Guti. Do I continue and keep to this commitment, or do I also just turn back?
It was scary. I don't want to lie to you. It was very scary because some of the people that are sick look fitter than you. They are Pilates babes. They look fitter than you. They are,
They're High Rocks kids.
Yes. Chipped.
Yes.
They are gym babes. And they are top runners wherever they are. So it was scary because now you look
Can
at yourself,
imagine.
right? You look at your physique and you're like, if this person who passed you along the way is this sick, then what about me, right? But I think it was always a reminder of focus on your trail and focus on your journey. So for me, that was an important lesson, that the importance of focusing on your own trail. And just because someone gets to point B first doesn't necessarily mean that they will summit. So just your role is to focus on the path that you're walking. And also the community around that, because for me, as people are getting sick, it's the community showing up. I remember the one time when we arrived there, right? The one lady was, she was bad, dehydrated because she has not been drinking enough water and like literally sunburnt, everything underneath the sun. She wasn't even in our
like group,
right? But our team doctor walked up to him like, what's wrong? And gave whatever medication he had. For me, that was also like the community around that, right? And then fast forward, we're now walking to where we're going to sleep just before summit. That walk was, it was a tough walk. And it's a tough walk not because of anything, but because as you're walking up, the oxygen gets thinner, right? And also it's the thought that you are so close, but yet so far.
Oh, yes, which happens in life a lot.
Yes. We walk up, we finally arrive at base camp. When you arrive at base camp, guys, it is cold. And when it's cold,
because the higher you go, the colder it becomes.
Yes. We are served, we arrived there, we are served soup, tea. Guys, the fruits there are to die for, guys. As I'd always joke with my friends, and I'm like, I can marry a Tanzanian man just for the fruits. Guys, we are served fruits. We then have to go to bed. So we went to bed about 7, 8. And number one, before going to bed, the toilets, they are long drops.
Sure.
The ones, yabo lawa, ama long drops, lawa balegele makai.
Yes.
And I'm just like,
but you have no choice now.
Like, I've got no choice but to use that long drop. And I'm just like, but what did I get myself into? So, but also it was, upon reflecting on that, it was just, a lot of things in life don't matter, right? Because I remember when we'd go, because my paternal side is from MCing, would go MCing as kids. I hated long drops. I did not want to use them. Like, I was that finicky, right? But at that very moment, it was the humility of saying, yes, I might have a flushing toilet in my house and we might, but the humility of doing as people do.
Yeah.
For me, it was also a very humbling moment. Okay, cool. We sleep. As we sleep, firstly, I didn't sleep because it was the anxiety and trying to fall asleep, because what happens is you start summiting at night, right? So we woke up at about 11, get ready by 12, we're being served tea and we start walking. So we start summiting at night, and as we start summiting at night, that was one of the hardest nights I've ever experienced.
In your life?
Yes. It is cold. It's minus something temperatures. So, number one. Number two, I don't have to be on this mountain.
You chose to be there.
I chose to be there. Number three, it's a 7-kilometer walk. But it was hard. Like, it was tough, right? And on top of it being tough, it was, your body is also going through things. Like, because of altitude, because of altitude sickness, altitude sickness, right? Your body's going through things. I started having periods, and they were the most, like, I've never had period pains like that. You know, when all you want is
Just to sit.
not even sit, lie on the floor.
Yeah.
It was so painful, but I still need to continue walking, right? And and it was tough. Like, you know, when there's a saying that says the last mile is always the hardest. It felt like that. And I remember...
And often feels the longest.
Yes. No, that walk was long. Shame, I don't want to lie. It was long. It was 7 kilometers, but that 7 kilometers was a very long 7 kilometers. I remember asking myself, why am I here? And it was tough. And what gave me hope was the sun rising. As a reminder that no matter how dark it is, no matter how tough the situation is, the sun will always rise. And that sunrise was the most beautiful thing I've ever witnessed. Like, the Kili sunrise is beautiful. And that's what gave me hope. And while I'm looking at that, I'm experiencing partial blindness, right? And I'm just like, because I turned around to our guide, Usimba. I'm like, do I have something in my eye? Because I feel like...
You can't see clearly.
Yes. He's like, no. Anyways, it was partial blindness because of the dust, etc. Anyways, we summit, right? So we walk up and we summit, right? But for me, it was also the community and the team spirit on that night, because, guys, how do I describe it? It was when you wanted to give up, the people that you're climbing with in a group is the one that will be your biggest cheerleaders.
Yes. It's like running.
Yes.
Because sometimes when you run, especially towards the finish, if you've been running at 21 or whatever, someone will actually be like, let's go.
Yes.
Or give you that thing. Goes, hey, stop walking. That type of, camaraderie.
Yes.
Yeah.
And yes, it was that community. And that's what, like, I can't emphasize the importance of community that mountain taught me, right? I'll make an example, right? You've got, so how you climb is you've got your guides, you've got your porters. So the porters are the people that carry your bags, and you've got kitchen staff that cook for you, that you climb with, right? The porters have no business being on that mountain besides to support you and make your climb a bit more successful, right? But they will cheerlead you on. They will sing for you guys, and you will join them just for that, right? The guides will carry your backpacker when your strength is failing you. And it was that. And fast forward, we climb up and we summit. And you literally are there on the summit point for less than, 12 minutes? Just for the picture. And then you go down. Yep.
But how did it feel for you? Did you feel like after climbing Kilimanjaro, baba?
Yes, I did. Firstly, I cried.
I can imagine.
So I summited, and then after summiting, we walked down. So because once you've gotten yourself up, you still need to
go down.
Yes.
What comes up must go down.
When at the end of like the hike, like the summit, right? After we had gone down, right? I cried. I cried that day. I cried. We got to the hotel. I cried at night. We left, drove to Kilimanjaro airport and landed in Nairobi. I cried, I think the next morning when we flew out, I cried for a good 3.5 hours. And for me, it was the tears of finally honoring my enemy.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And it was the tears of saying, I did something for me. And it was something that wasn't expected by family. I'll make an example with studying. That's sort of expected
Yeah.
by family.
Yeah.
Working is sort of expected by families. But I honored what I wanted because my mom didn't understand why you're going to climb a mountain where a couple of years before that, a South African prominent figure passed away. And the horror stories that we hear about people dying on that mountain. My parents did not understand that, right? But yet I needed to honor my enemy. I needed to chase what I wanted. And also how everything came together. Like I didn't know how I was going to pay for that summit.
Yeah.
But
someone came
through and a miracle happened. And on that mountain, because I had just recently lost my grandmother. 7 months before summiting, my grandmother had passed away in December, 5th of December, right? I felt her presence. And it was the beauty of saying, I did not only give, it wasn't about period poverty, but the mountain also gave to me. It healed my grief. The grief of losing a mom. It was beautiful.
life-changing.
It was life-changing. But also the grace that came with that, because I had then met a lovely lady, Sarah Kumalo, right, who's the first Black woman to summit Mount Everest, right, before going to Kili. She then said to me, Thando, once you've summited mountains like that, you then also go through like a mini depressive episode because you've done something so great. It's important to look after yourself. But it was also the grace and the provision of of God providing, of a person saying, be careful. Because you can't always live life on a high.
Yeah, because now you feel invincible. And sometimes that makes you too confident because you're just like, guys, it's like winning the lottery. Maybe today, maybe I might throw my laptop, who knows? But it gives you the type of high where you feel like, I've conquered this, I can conquer anything.
Yes.
And that humility leaves you.
Yes, but I came back, I've never been so grateful for a toilet in my life. You guys, I've never been so grateful for a toilet in my life. Because what happens is, so as you're walking, if you need the bathroom, you use the bushes.
Yeah, I use it.
So sometimes when you start off, when you're in the forest, it's still nice. You can still hide under trees, right? But by the time day 3, 4 comes, guys, it's a desert.
There's no hiding.
There's no hiding. So all you're doing is just...
You just have to do your business.
And the thing is, I always said I had a bathroom with views on that mountain. So I came back. I've never been so grateful for a bathroom, right? But secondly, I've never respected people like that, right? Because yes, I come from a culture where inhlonipho is emphasized, right? Respect is emphasized, but also understanding that the people that help you up that mountain are not as privileged as you, but they are still cheering you on for your goal, right? So just for me, it was the respect of whether you're a cleaner, whether you are, whether you
form part of the puzzle.
And we all have our roles to play in the society. So so it dealt with a certain part of my classism that probably I had picked up along the way, but it just humbled me back to my roots, saying, listen, everyone, Leo Mamo Pega Emngcwabeni, who might not be working, that role is equally as important as a person or kokela everything in the family. So for me, it also it created that thing of humility. It humbled me. That mountain will humble you. Like nature will humble you. And Kili really humbled me, Shame, in many ways, shape or form.
You must write a book about Kili. One
Yes.
day.
One day.
One day.
One day.
It sounds amazing, but I also enjoy your reflections on it and how they are sort of mimicking what we go through in life. So Thando, one more thing. If you were to describe a confident person, how would you describe them?
Yeah. Okay. Before I answer that, let me just go back to linking the confidence topic to Kili, right? I think also the journey taught me confidence because one of the most important things was to focus on your own journey and your own path.
Yes.
Right? Where you sort of have a trail that you need to focus on. And for me, it was also saying the self-belief in the ability to keep going, right? And if I had to describe a confident person, I think for me, confidence is about being how authentic are you, right? And it's not about being the loudest person. Yes, I am naturally pappy, right? But it's not even about that. But it's about how authentic are you? What type of stuff do you say to yourself? How kind are you to yourself, right? And also it's about taking risks. Whether you get them right or wrong, it's also about that. It's about showing truly yourself. And also giving yourself grace, guys.
Yeah,
to
so
say
important.
That confidence will evolve over time. Yeah.
And you may show up differently also as time goes, but as long as you are true to who you are.
Yes. And I think also just on that, it's very important also to say, if you showed up as person A in that phase of your life, it's okay if you're showing up as person B. Honor that transition. I think for me, that's also important because you can't always be person A. Life is about growth.
Yes.
How do you grow?
How do you evolve?
Yes.
Thando, it was so lovely having you. I took away so many nuggets, building a community, for instance, that will give you the safe space, remind you who you are is important. Doing the work. At some point you had a coach, a therapist, a psychiatrist. So having that form part of your community to help you balance out that mental health is very important in making you resilient, but also looking within how you speak to yourself, how you love yourself even, and how you show up for yourself is also very important. Amongst other things you said, there's lots. But thank you so much for gracing us with your presence and honoring us. Till next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.